wild guess about what is common between the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar and kings of ancient India, Kanishka or Vikramaditya? Although the period of their reigns differ by several years, but they do have a common connection. And that common connection is calendar. Yes, you heard it right. The same old calendar that has become a rarity these days. Julius Caesar started the Julian calendar, while the Saka Samvat has its origin in King Kanishka's times, and the Vikram Samvat calendar dates back to the King Vikramaditya. In fact, not many know that the Saka calendar or the Saka Samvat is the official calendar of India, along with the modern Gregorian calendar. Ask your grandparents about the once ubiquitous Thakur Prasad calendar and see how their eyes would lit up as they hark back to the memories of those old days. Today, we bring to you the story and history of the calendars and how they came into being. But before that, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to In-Depth. Needless to say, the first calendar originated at the places where the civilization first thrived, in the valleys of Tigris and Euphrates rivers. All those cities had their own calendars with their own names for the months of the year, which varied at different places or cities. There was no uniformity between them because their calendar was need-based. King Shulgi, who ruled in the 21st century BC, united all those different calendars into the Ummah calendar, and that calendar formed the basis of the Babylonian calendar. It had 12 months and the 13th month every 4 years. That calendar started in the spring, around March or April according to the Gregorian calendar. The Babylonian Empire lasted from around 1896 BC to 539 BC and reached its peak during the reign of King Hammurabi. At the same time, the Egyptian Empire was growing in the western side. What interested the Egyptians most was the annual flooding of the Nile River. Each year between May and August, according to the Gregorian calendar, monsoon would bring heavy rains to the Ethiopian highlands south of Egypt. The water flew into the Nile, causing the river to flood its bank. But the floods also determined the pattern of the year. Egyptians divided their calendar into 3 seasons. The flood season lasted from around June to September. The emergence lasted from around October to January, and finally, the low water or the harvest season took place between February and May. By the time when the pyramids were built, Egypt had also instituted a civil calendar. The civil calendar was perhaps based on the movement of Sirius, a star which reappeared in the sky at about the same time as Nile would start to flood. This civil year or calendar was made up of 12 months of 30 days and an additional month of 5 days, thus creating a year of 365 days. Then came the era of the Romans. By that time, human civilization had the lunar calendars as well as combinations of solar and lunar calendars. But even then, there was a basic problem. The amount of time the earth took to revolve around the sun could not be counted in whole days. This meant that calendars in different places and times around the world would regularly fall out of sync with the seasons. If a calendar is out of sync with the season, it is out of sync with the stars and the movement of the moon. The end of the Roman kingdom and the growth of the Roman Republic led to another revision of the calendrical system. By now, the Romans were influenced by Greek calendars which divided the year into 12 lunar months, alternating between 29 and 30 days. The Romans, however, kept the 3rd, 5th, 7th and 10th months of 31 days each. Every other month was of 29 days except February, which had 28 days and 29 in each leap year. Each month too was very carefully divided. The Romans called the first of the month calends. This word is actually the root word of calendar. They called the day before the middle of the month the Ides, and the 8 days before the Ides were called nuns. Those reflected the calendar's lunar origins and marked the sighting of the crescent moon, the quarter moon and the full moon. In 48 BC, Julius Caesar proposed a reform to this Roman calendar. The reform then added 10 days to every year. 2 days were added to January, Sextilis, which is now August and December. Another day was added to April, June, September and November. February continued to be of 28 days. This new calendar spread across the empire and also into neighboring states and client kingdom, where calendars became 365 days with one leap day, initially every 3 years but eventually every 4 years. The Julian calendar worked pretty well, but it was not wholly accurate. The calendar assumed that a year had precisely 365.25 days in a year. According to the estimates, the Earth took 365.2422 days to revolve around the Sun, and that difference of 11 minutes every year was enough to push the calendar out of alignment with the equinoxes by about 3 days every 400 years. This drift of the calendar proved a problem for the church. The celebration of Easter was determined by the date of the spring equinox which the church had established fell on March 21st. By the 16th century, the equinox fell about 10 days earlier. So eventually reforms were proposed and a new calendar was adopted on October 15, 1582 during the papacy of Gregory XIII. This new Gregorian calendar repaired the Julian calendar's error of 1 day every 128 years and replaced it with an error of 1 day every 3030 years. Most of these calendars were created in Europe and Asia, but Mesoamerica also formed indigenous calendrical systems. Some of these calendars are still in use today. Many of these calendars are not widespread, but some groups in the highlands of Guatemala and some regions of Mexico still continue to use these ancient calendars. Several types of other calendars are also used in various parts of the world, but over time, the Gregorian calendar has come to be the benchmark that has been recognized internationally. And as far as India is concerned, the Saka era calendar was adopted in 1957. The usage started officially on the first day of Chaitra 1879, which corresponded to 22nd March 1957. From this day, government notifications, all India radio announcements and calendars issued by the central and state governments included dates according to this Saka era. Although the calendars are indeed becoming rare to be found these days in households, but their importance are still intact. In fact, all Hindu festivals continue to be celebrated based on these calendars. And no matter what, calendars will continue to exist as long as this civilization exists. We hope you would like this new video. Thank you so much for watching.